Okay. So, wow, this is an amazing video with users, managers, and directors testimonials. But now we can listen Wefa directly. Carrie and Cedric, thank you both very much for being here today. I will start this first round of questions with Cedric because he was the first responsible for virtual venue, for Vista. Hi, Cedric, welcome. Can you please share with us why Wefa decided to build this system?
Hello everybody. Hello Vasco. Thanks. First, it's always a heartbreaker to see this video and see the Portugal national team lifting the Euro Cup against the French team. So thanks for that, Vasco. Then to answer your questions, the genesis around what we called Vista at UEFA for virtual venue was initially, to be honest, to run some savings. So the idea of our top management on the operational side was to see how we could reduce the amount of people traveling, staying overnight across the various venues that we are operating across our various competitions. So back in time, we were not talking about COVID, we were not talking about being green and so on. It was really to run some savings. So the idea was to create a platform where we could offer the possibility for people who will not have the chance to go on a stadium, an airport, a fan zone, to see how it looks like the venue without really going at the venue. The rationale behind is that for certain core business, you need to go there. No discussion. That means your signage teams, they need to go there to take measurements and so on. So we do have some core team that needs to travel and to go on site. For other teams, it was not always justified, and this is how we ended up thinking about a concept that could offer them the possibility to see how they will operate ultimately the venue comfortably seated at home. That's the genesis, basically.
Okay, thank you, Cedric. Carrie, welcome. What are the main benefits achieved by Wefa using virtual venue?
I think first and foremost, the most important benefit is that everybody has access to the updated maps, the same information from the same source. You know, we're not trying anymore to distribute and redistribute and change and redistribute AutoCAD files and, you know, make sure everybody has the right version of the file and the right information. Now, if something needs to be changed, if an access flow needs to change, or a dot needs to change, or a facility needs to change, first of all, the change doesn't need to go through a map specialist. The project leader, I think, as Sophie said in the video, they can do it themselves. So they don't anymore have to brief somebody else. They can directly make the change, and immediately anybody who's using Vista has access to this information. So that whole process of keeping the information and the maps and everything up to date, I think is a lot more seamless than it was in the past. Also, of course, with the 360 photos of the interior of the stadium, you know, everybody has a much better view of the facilities inside the stadium. They have the view of the details of the maps, and we're really able to reduce, as Cedric said, the original goal was to reduce the number of people going on site visits. Obviously, with COVID, the landscape has changed a bit, but absolutely, we're doing a lot more from our desk and managing a lot more remotely with the information in Vista than we were able to in the past. And then, I mean, if I talk even just about, for example, the site visits, in UEFA, we were not very good about having kind of a consistent application across events. So we kind of had one application for club competitions, another for Euro. In some cases, we were doing site visits in PowerPoints. So you can imagine, again, the consistency of information and keeping everything up to date was quite complex. So on that side of things, the idea is to really have everybody. Then from an IT standpoint, there's a good benefit because everybody's using the same application, and everybody, again, has the same source of information.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. The impact, it seems great. Thanks, Carrie. Probably for both Cedric and Carrie, what can you tell us about the virtual venue adoption under Wefa environment. Probably start with Cedric, that started the system, and after with Kerry. What are you seeing about the virtual venue adoption in Wefa organization?
Yeah, it's a good question, and in fact, it reminds me some interesting souvenir, because we have to understand that we were coming from, as Kerry explained, CAD file, most of the time paper printed files, as a base of work to prepare an event. And with this kind of digital transformation, we took a kind of a shift, a technical shift from paper to digital. And the most important change in terms of adoption was the human adoption. So when you switch from a certain way of working to another way of working, which is drastically different, it has to come with a certain change management. So we saw that with certain population working in-house, Vista, particularly maybe the younger one, without a huge past at UEFA, it was really quickly adopted, and they really saw the potential of Vista, and they had a certain pleasure to prepare the event using Vista. For other population who were there and used to work in a certain way for decades, it has been a bit more complicated, I have to say. So we had to support them a bit more in that change. But nowadays, everybody is on the same page, and I think the result is quite positive.
Yeah, from my side, if I talk even just about Euro 2020, because we're 9 days before the start of the tournament now, I think in Vista, we had kind of 500 to 600 users roughly about a year ago. And as of yesterday, we had 3,367. So you can see, I mean, just the numbers show the adoption of the tool. Everybody in our venues for Euro 2020 are using it. From our staff, all of the projects, the local organizing committees, we have the suppliers accessing directly to get the information. We've also given access to broadcast partners and sponsors so that they can, have visibility to the facilities that are relevant for them. Broadcast partners can see the studios, they can see the camera platforms, they can see everything that's relevant for them directly in the application before they go on site. So, I mean, it's a small anecdote, but I said to Vashko just before the call started that it's a good sign that even yesterday I was getting calls from people in the venue asking to have access for other people because they're using it so much. They don't want to print the maps. They want to give the people access so they can see directly in the application. So this is a positive sign, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very interesting, the growth from 600 to 3,000. It's a tremendous growth, and it seems also, as Cedric and you, Kerry, said, it's like a transformation process of the organization, how to address, to plan, operate, and deliver the event, and to have these supporting tools to provide better services. It's amazing. It's amazing. Cedric, what changes did you assist in UEFA? What can you share with us about this thought, the changes that you assist in UEFA?
I think the two key changes that I noticed at UEFA were around consistency and communication or collaboration. Consistency because Kerry mentioned that just before, we are coming from an area where people were working their way, their system, their maps for various competitions into a way where everybody is working with the same single reference. So in our case, we use quite often the same venues for different competitions. So we could use, for instance, a stadium for a Champions League final and reuse it for Euro tournament or under 21 tournament. What changed? It's not the stadium. The walls are the same. The dressing room are the same. What changed is the overlay that we are bringing on top of it. Back in time, everybody working for different events. This is the way we are structured at UEFA. we're having there's different way of naming, using the space. Nowadays, it's consistent. So we do have a naming convention, and everybody's properly structured thanks to Vista. So there is no way to diverge too much from this single way of working, which is bringing a huge benefit. This is one. Second, and probably the most important, is the collaboration, which is quite linked to the point I mentioned before. Different team, different way of working, different population, external, internal. And the biggest change is that now everybody is working on a web and mobile-based platform. So it means that internally, the different teams are working on the same platform. They are talking much, they are exchanging the information in a more consistent way. If we talk about a room, square meters in that room, they are talking about the same thing, the same language. So it's bringing a lot of benefits and avoid a lot of, let's say, unclarity that we could have in the past. And it opens a lot of opportunities working with, let's say, external, the local organizational committee. We can give access, it's web-based. So we can work with a supplier like this, just giving access on what we want to give in terms of access. And then we just keep working collaboratively, on the same project. So that's the two biggest change for me.
Thank you, Cedric. It's interesting to understand that this kind of these solutions, these systems, being so transversal to the organizations, it's an opportunity to have a common language, a common dictionary of understanding how to deliver, operate, and so on. So it's very, very interesting. And to finish this first round of questions to our colleagues, I ask Carrie, are there other ways you foresee in virtual venue helping you in the middle, long term?
I mean, I think we're very, very focused on the Euro right now, but talking about after, first and foremost, the asset management tool that we've been working on together with you guys, we were a bit too late to use that for Euro 2020, so we'll start using that for the Nations League finals. We've worked a lot with our event logistics teams to get this ready for them to use, and they'll start, I think, very soon setting up all of the assets that need to be requested by the other units of UEFA. We're also working on getting our other competitions up and running on the site visits. You know, for club competitions, Champions League and Europa League, they have quite a different process for site visits. So we're kind of in a transition process with them to get them moved over and using the site visit application in Vista as well. And then, of course, we're already starting to look ahead. The maps and plans are starting to be put in for Euro 2024. The site visits will start being done in September or in the fall. So we're moving from one Euro straight into the next. So yeah, competition to competition, and we try to onboard more and more people into the application to have some consistency as well across UEFA.
Thank you, Carrie. It's also interesting to see that smallest competitions like under 17, under 19 can benefit also because the platform is there. So probably it was not possible to build a system for them, but now it's there, they can benefit and help them to deliver the event also. It's very interesting to understand that. And now, thank you both for sharing us your experience. It's delighted to see all the value that is being delivered by Virtual Venue. I will start with Carrie to share with us, please, how Virtual Venue is supporting UEFA planning events under this pandemic context.
So as Cedric said earlier, I think our original goal was always to reduce the number of people traveling and the number of site visits we were really conducting kind of in the stadiums. But I really don't think any of us expected to reach a situation where we couldn't travel at all. This obviously was unexpected for all of us. Thankfully, at that stage, we already had Vista up and running, and our colleagues were able to conduct the site visits from their desks at home, you know, already using the blueprints, the maps, the 360 photos. They were able to define the access routes, put in the steward checkpoints, everything they needed to do without physically going to the stadium. So dare I say that having Vista sort of made this pandemic situation almost manageable from the, I mean, it wasn't easy for anybody, of course, but it absolutely helped us to manage the situation. Also, as most of you probably know, the Euro 2020 event is in 11 different countries. And you could imagine with a pandemic, with the different regulations, the different, you know, rules about the number of people in stadiums, the different test scenarios, all of this that's around the pandemic, 11 countries was always going to be hard. And this just made it, you know, a million times harder. So basically at some point in each venue, we had 4 different scenarios. We were calling them N1, N2, N3, and N4. And this was basically ranging from no spectators at all to a stadium with full capacity. And of course, because it's 11 different countries, we could have had different scenarios in every country, finally. So basically in Vista, we were able to manage kind of what those different scenarios meant from a facilities and access, a steward, a flows point of view. Obviously, it's different if the stadium is empty than if the stadium is completely full. So we were able to manage these scenarios. Once a decision was taken in each venue, we were able to kind of, let's say, select and activate the relevant overlay, and then kind of become operational with that relevant overlay. You know, like everybody, we've been working with a moving target for the last 18 months, really a moving target, with changes up to the last minute. So I think having Vista has really helped us to be able to adapt to these constant changes, especially from a preparation point of view.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, it's not easy to change Champions League final from Istanbul to Oporto in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
From north of Spain to Sevilla for Europe League. So it's not easy to handle all these changes in almost real time. A moving target, as you said. So it's but okay, it's proved to Vista is proved to be a good capacity for UEFA to deliver and operate those events. Now for both Cedric and Carrie, how do you see virtual venue evolution in UEFA?
Can I start, Carrie?
Yes.
In fact, if we remember where we started with virtual venue or Vista and where we are today, I don't think at that time, it was 5 years ago, we could imagine that we will grow that much this platform to end up where we are today. So for me, it gives the trend that we took and we are taking, which is definitely to grow around virtual venue or operational processes. So when we realized that having this, let's say, powerful geo-localized reference, thanks to virtual venue, was helping us to develop our operational process in a more efficient way, we started from having a kind of a way to see the venue without being at the venue to build an asset management tool, a site visit tool, and so on and so on. So personally, I think that we could and we will probably keep growing around virtual venue, not the entire chain of event preparation from bidding to delivery, but we will grow more module around it in the coming months and years. That's my take.
Yeah, from my side, I have to say we've been very, very focused, obviously, on the current events with the Euro and the finals and all of the changes that have been happening. We've been very operational and focused on that. But we've already started some discussions with, I mean, Cedric mentioned the bidding, with the bidding team about how we can start to onboard the stadiums earlier in the process. Of course, the first point of contact we have with the stadiums is that bidding process, and we start to gather information about the stadiums, about the facilities, about everything, about not just the stadiums, but the other sites in the proposed host countries. So the idea would be kind of to hopefully extend how we're using Vista to start that whole process earlier. I think that's the main thing that we've started looking ahead to.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting to see the evolution and the vision and the sustainability of the platform along the time. It's very important. And now, Kerry, when we talk about investments, we need to access always the return on investment that supports it. What can you tell us about Vista Virtual Venue return on investment in UEFA?
That's quite literally the $1 million question, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah, I have to say it's not really possible to give a very concrete number at the moment. I think originally we estimated that we would be able to reduce traveling costs around site visits, hotels, flights, etc. by 20%. Obviously with COVID, at some point we reduced from 100% to 0%. There was no traveling happening at all. Then with all of the venue changes and everything, I think it's very, very difficult for us to calculate that realistically this year. I think it's going to be really interesting in the coming year, once things return to normal a little bit, to see really where we land. Will it be kind of, we started at 100%, we went back to 0% traveling. Will we come back somewhere in the middle? So maybe the 20% we originally planned, or even less traveling, because we've actually seen now that we can do it. We were forced to do it. We know we can do it. So it will be very interesting to see where we land. And I think we'll see over kind of the next year or two, the real return on investment in a more normal situation.
Okay, thank you, Kerry. It's always a hot topic when we talk about investments because all investment must be sustainable and prove to be good investment and good return on investment. And I think we are proving that. But more we need to see, but already is demonstrating the value and the return on investment under UEFA context, which is very, very interesting. So the time flies. We are achieving the end of this webinar, but we still have about 7 minutes for the Q&A session.